Hello and welcome to Reality Check.
Hi.
Before we start, I want to tell you a little bit about our sponsor for this week. It's the iconic Chuck Norris, a guy I used to have on my bedroom wall. The martial artist hero who's still in his 80s and still kicking butt and
What? What?
This is really Just Stop. Here's Ross, the host with today's dose of common sense.
Everybody, welcome back. For those of you who are just watching on video, yes, I was talking, and the microphone was muted. You'll have to forgive me for being a little out of sorts. You'll notice I'm still in my bathrobe. I'm wrapped up in my bathrobe if you're watching on the video. You know why? Because my furnace stopped working, and it's broken, and it's going to take a few days for them to get it fixed. Really, what they're going to have to do is replace it with a new furnace. It's only 8 years old, maybe 9, almost 9 years old, 8.5 years old. And we had to have some repairs done to it a few years ago already, even like after it was only about 4 years into it. And now it has gone kaput forever. And it's freezing in here. So I'm keeping my bathrobe on it. It's big and fluffy. So, I might sniffle now and then because it's freezing in here. We have a couple of space heaters going, and we have some more on the way. So we'll be okay, but it's just not good. It seems like every week so far of 2025, we have had to spend, I don't know, about $3,000 to $4,000 on unexpected things that have happened, like medical things or vehicle things or home repair things or a sick animal thing that required surgery. It's been insane, and life sucks right now. I really hoped, I told everyone that I hoped that 2025 was going to be a better year than 24, because 24, of course, was a pretty rough year for us anyway. I don't know about everybody else, but it was for us, especially since I almost died. But 2025 flipped me the big bird and said, hey, fuck you, man. We're going to make it suck. And so far it's sucking. So I have the doors open too here in my little studio recording booth, spare bedroom thing. So if you're watching and you see a cat run through, or if you're listening and you hear something, some strangeness, it could be the cats, because they're normally not in here when I'm doing the recording. So they're in here now because I have the door open so that the heat can flow a little better through the house. Anyway, the introduction, that was fun. That was a fun introduction. Chuck Norris is sponsoring the Ross Coulthart thing with, the Jake Barber whistleblower thing. And I'm just not even kidding. So they're, Chuck Norris's sponsor link, chuckdefense.com// Ross. He's got an affiliate link right there. And he is all in, I guess. Chuck is all in on this whole thing. Now, those of you who know me or know me from the other podcast or from some other place, you probably are aware that I am a martial artist, and I've had a love of the martial arts since childhood. Chuck Norris, of course, was one of my childhood heroes. He made a bunch of really bad movies. He made a couple of decent movies, but most of them were just really bad. But they were fun. And there's one of the cats. You can see it back there. It's probably going to cause some trouble. It's in the window. Anyway, Yeah, Chuck Norris was an actual world champion, and he was like a real life martial artist. He wasn't just an actor guy like a lot of the guys who were doing action movies back then, but it was him and Joe Louis and, geez, who else from back in those days? Um, God, there were so many of them. Don Wilson, Don the Dragon Wilson was one. Benny Urquidez, but not much. Benny usually had like a bit role or played a bad guy or something. But there were a lot of actual fighting champions who got into movies. Billy Blanks, of course. I think he wasn't really a full contact karate guy. He was more of a tournament fighter guy. And Cynthia Rothrock, I think, was kind of along the same lines. I think she was more of a tournament champion than a fighter. But Chuck was kind of the leader of all that, going back a few years and kind of popularized American martial arts films. And a lot of that was really helped along by him being friends with Bruce Lee and being in a movie with Bruce Lee, and that kind of thrust him out there as Bruce Lee's career took off and his movies became incredibly popular. So he became incredibly popular. He played a bad guy in the Bruce Lee movie, by the way, but and had his chest hairs ripped out, if I remember right, in this scene. But anyway, yeah, Chuck Norris, a legend. Really, really old now. I don't know who runs his organization, but yeah, the last couple of times I saw him actually on video talking and doing different things, it's not looking good. But he was born in 1940, if I remember correctly. So he's, I think, in August. I don't remember. I used to actually remember his birthday because he's originally from Oklahoma. And I have family in Oklahoma. My father's from Oklahoma. I lived in Oklahoma for about 6 years of my life. And so he was one of the native sons of Oklahoma. Him and Hoyt Axton. And Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks being just a minor figure of fame in Oklahoma, where the Cowboy Hall of Fame is located, by the way, and where the original National Finals rodeos took place before they moved the whole show to Las Vegas. It used to be in Oklahoma City. So, yeah, fun times. So he's part of Oklahoma history. He's part of martial arts history. He's part of entertainment history. And now he's sponsoring UFO whistleblower videos with News Nation. And bad ones at that. I've never heard Chuck Norris talk about extraterrestrial life or aliens or UFOs or anything, so I don't know how he feels about it. It is possible that just the media buzz and the social media buzz around this topic and him wanting to get his brand back in the faces of consumers again. Maybe he just saw an opportunity and said, boom, hey, I'm going to sponsor this show with my organization and it's going to be all over the place. I'll pick up a whole new audience of, fans with this new, fan base in the UFO community and the alien and apparently the psionics, psychic communication with UFOs people, which was a poor choice, Chuck, but hey, whatever, I'm not going to judge. But it caught me off guard. It did. And I saw it on X and I was like, well, wait a minute. This is not real. This can't be a thing. And it was somebody I follow on X who just made a comment about it. They were like, yeah, your latest, psychic UFO researcher sponsored by Chuck Norris. And I thought, well, I don't know. I don't understand the context of this joke. And then I did. And I found the video and I was like, holy shit, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, it's true. And I don't know if I really want to, I don't know, do we want to play this again a little, play the rest of it? And cocaine. No. Okay, we're not going to watch it. Okay. Probably will. Probably will. I don't think so, Ross. So anyway, yeah, this was the now I've got to look at it. I think this is the video that's the full interview with Jake Barber. Yes, it is. And it's whoa, hey. News Nation. When I'm cold, apparently I can't talk. But I'll get over it. I'll be okay. So this is the full hour and a half, I think, long interview with Jake Barber. And it was released yesterday. I haven't had a chance to watch the entire thing. And I don't know if I will. It's really pointless for me to watch it. He does clarify some things, apparently. I've watched The Buzz, and I've watched people commenting about it on X and other places. And apparently he does clarify some things, but he clarifies them by continuing to lie about them as far as his military career is concerned, and what he did in the military and all that other stuff. And he fancies himself a very scary guy. He kind of is, but it's more of a have you taken your meds today kind of scary. It's really weird. But yeah, apparently he goes into a lot more detail on some things. So we may have a better understanding of where he's coming from. And maybe News Nation did some really choppy, boring, or really bad editing, misleading editing in order to make it seem like he was saying something he didn't say when it comes to lying about his military career and saying that he was a combat controller and a tier 1 operator and all those other things. Some of the clips that I saw, he isn't quite saying that, but he's using language that would make you think that on purpose. And he's being really vague about things, but he's also using certain terminology like club, the skydiving club and the shooting club. But when he starts describing those, he's trying to make it seem like these were things that the military had and that he was voluntarily going through these programs. But these were really extracurricular activities that he was doing on his own. They were hobbies that he was pursuing: skydiving, scuba, shooting, mountain climbing, things like that. But he tries to make it sound like these are things that he was doing in the military in order to become a better super soldier guy, tier 1 operator. And it's all just bullshit. It's complete and utter bullshit. And people are now saying, oh, look, he does mention Dr. Bullshit Stephen Greer in his longer interview. And I'm wondering why News Nation left that out in the initial interview, because Stephen Greer is insane and he's full of shit and he's a con artist. And he's selling people this imaginary psychic connection with machines from outer space. And it's insane, because it's insane. But when Barber's initial interview came out, that's what I said in one of the interviews I did, was that, well, this is shades of Stephen Greer, because it really is. He was saying a lot of the same things. And this whole, we're going to summon the UFOs with our psychic energy and stuff, that's exactly what Stephen Greer says or claims or tries to teach people in his CE5 bullshit, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind bullshit. And so I knew that's where it came from. I didn't know he was directly associated with that. I thought maybe he was just an adherent to Stephen Greer's philosophy or whatever, but apparently not. Apparently he even knows Stephen Greer and has probably gone through a few of his programs, and that's probably where he came up with all of his bullshit about psionics and becoming psychically connected with a UAP and things like that. But he actually says in this interview, in the longer version, that he's affiliated with Dr. Greer, and that he consulted with him after having a certain encounter and things like that. And it's just, I understand why they wouldn't have included it in the original interview, but I'm sure they all wish they had not included it in this full-length interview, because it does not help Mr. Barber and his credibility, because Stephen Greer is one of the worst among this cadre of UFO con artists, and his stuff is like borderline insane, and I just can't stand to listen to him. I can't. And I know some people can, but I can't. Whenever he's on any documentary, that documentary is gone. I remove it from any material that I would reference for any reason. Because if you're dumb enough to have Dr. Stephen Greer on your documentary, you have no credibility in the community whatsoever. Because you're a fucking idiot. Because you're putting people who everyone on earth knows is a lying piece of shit, con artist, in your film, trying to boost your own beliefs with someone everyone accepts as being a con artist. And it's crazy. So if you put Dr. Greer, he used to be a medical doctor. He no longer practices, but apparently not since the 90s or something. It makes you wonder why. You know, a successful, supposedly successful emergency room physician would just give up medicine entirely and start psychically connecting with aliens. That's odd. So, I don't know, maybe he makes more money on this grift than he did as a doctor, which is possible, I guess. But, yeah, no. If you want me to tune out, that's the first thing you do is just put Stephen Greer somewhere in the opening credits or something, and I'll just stop watching right there. So, that's a trick for you. If you don't want me to tear apart your documentary and laugh at you, just put in cooperation with Dr. Stephen Greer in the opening, like or executive producer Dr. Stephen Greer, and I'll just turn it off and never watch it. And then you'll never have to hear me tell you you're an idiot. Yeah, stupid. So I'm sorry, Jake, but you didn't help yourself with that one. And the crazy eyes didn't help you either. I don't know if you didn't take your meds that day, or maybe you took too many, or maybe cocaine is one of your meds. I'm not sure, but the whole, I'm going to open my eyes as wide as I can make them and stare off into the middle distance while I talk. That's not an attractive look for you, Jake. So crazy. And good old Chuck Norris, one of my childhood heroes, who I think he's farther gone probably than Joe Biden at this point, but at least he has an excuse. Maybe he took some blows to the head or something. But I don't fault him for wanting to sponsor the thing. It's probably good press for him. It's probably going to get some attention from a new fan base, and he may not know his organization is doing that. Whoever's running the show is just like, we're going to do this. He may not even know about it. So I don't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, since he's probably a senile old man by now. But if you want to watch a decent movie, a fun movie, Chuck Norris movie, there's two that I always say that I liked. That doesn't mean they're good. It just means I liked them. And it's probably his best film was Lone Wolf McQuade. The worst part about Lone Wolf McQuade is that they had David Carradine in it. And it was terrible. David Carradine is a terrible actor, and he's a terrible fake martial artist. And it's a very controversial thing that they had him playing Kane, Kwai Chang Caine, from the Kung Fu TV series that should have starred Bruce Lee or, I don't know, anyone who wasn't David Carradine. But then years and years later, they brought it back, and they were like, it was a continuing saga of like 2 or 3 generations later, and it's David Carradine as a modern Kwai Chang Caine. Worst stuff ever. And so they had him in that Lone Wolf McQuade movie. He played a bad guy, and there were fight scenes between him and Chuck Norris, and they were just embarrassing because he doesn't even know how to throw a kick or anything. And he is one of the worst fake martial artists in the history of ever. But the movie itself, not too bad. There's some good supporting cast in there, some interesting characters, and some pretty good action scenes. I've always been a sucker for The Octagon, which was a movie that had him and Tadashi Yamashita, or pronounces it Yamashita, I think. And so I'm American and I do things wrong because I can't speak the language. But I met Tadashi Yamashita and Eric Lee and I'm going to forget who they were. It was a couple of other people. But I only knew who he was when I met them at this karate tournament back in 1981, maybe 81, 82. It was in Oklahoma City. It was a big shindig, and there were a lot of, celebrities there. But I only knew who he was because of Black Belt Magazine, and he was in The Octagon. And he's an amazing guy. He's really good. He's a good martial artist. He's a very hardcore kind of guy. And so I got to meet him. He didn't speak English, actually, so he just hi, shook hands and everything. And Eric Lee, if you don't know who Eric Lee is, you should look him up because he's been in probably most of the action movies you've ever seen. And in some of them, he's been killed multiple times. He kind of holds the distinction of having been killed in the same movie like multiple times as different characters because he's a stunt player and he's an amazing martial artist. And me as a kid, I'm up at I believe it was a Century Martial Arts table because Century Martial Arts is in Oklahoma as well. And so I'm at the Century Martial Arts table looking at their stuff, and I picked up a 3-section staff that I had seen used in some Kung Fu movies, Saturday afternoon Kung Fu cinema stuff. But I didn't have any idea how to use one, and it wasn't a part of the arsenal in the martial art I was studying, so it wasn't anything I was ever going to learn how to do. So I'm looking at it, and I have a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, and there's Eric Lee and another guy. And Eric Lee at the time, didn't speak English or didn't speak it well enough to be able to communicate. So this other guy was speaking for him. And so Eric Lee talks, and I'm just like looking back and forth between the guys because I'm a kid, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And the guy says, he's asking if you know how to handle this weapon. And I said, no, this is the first time I've ever touched one. And so Eric Lee held out his hands, and with a gesture of may I kind of thing, I handed him this 3-section staff that came right off of the table at Century Martial Arts. And I'm at their display table. And he used his arms and told everyone to back up. And he put on this clinic of this amazing demonstration of a 3-section staff right there, impromptu, in the middle of a crowd, outside of the competition venues, because, they had your stages set up and everybody was having their competitions, their kata competitions and their sparring and all that. And we were off, in the vendor area, and it was fun, and it was really amazing. The guy is incredibly talented. He put out a book or two on self-defense as well that were very, very similar to Bruce Lee's self-defense books that he put out in the late 60s, early 70s. So anyway, yeah, it was fun. So that was my connection with the movie The Octagon. But I had already watched The Octagon probably 4 or 5 times by then when I was a kid because it was one of my favorites. And I don't really know why. Maybe it's just the ninja, angle. But it was a fun movie. Most of Chuck Norris's other movies were pretty bad. I mean, those aren't great, but they were pretty bad. The movies that they actually were good, decently made movies that had really good supporting casts, just weren't that exciting. They were just like he was trying to make regular movies that had a little bit of fighting in them or something, where he was trying to be a cop and different things. So they were not as much fun, but the production values were better, and probably the critics ratings were better probably, but they're not as much fun if you're a Chuck Norris fan. There was one that I can't remember the name of it, but Dennis Farina was in it. He played a cop. Anyway, he was one of the supporting cast in there. And he kind of, made the whole movie feel like a better production during some scenes. So, but I can't remember the name of that one. I don't remember. I think it was about a serial killer or something. Maybe not. But anyhow, yeah, Chuck Norris is going to hang out with the crazy psionics UFO people. And that's fine. So I just wanted to talk about it this morning because it just made me laugh, and then it kind of hurt my heart a little bit that one of my childhood heroes has gone the way of the Jake Barber folks and the Dr. Greers and all that. So anyway, let's move on. And maybe I'll watch this entire interview and then pick it apart. Other people are already doing that. It's probably not necessary for me to do it unless you just want to get my take on it. I'll do that. But it's really not going to be anything different than what other people are saying, I'm sure. There's other people who have made this like a mission of theirs to just out Jake Barber as being a lunatic and a fraud. And more power to him because it's an obvious thing. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's necessary for me to weigh in too much more on that, but I thought it was funny with the Chuck Norris angle. So there you have it. And I'm going to call it a day right now. It's still early morning. But yeah, got to go try to heat up the house a little bit more. So wish me luck. And hey, if you like the show, if you want to hear more, or you just want your friends to laugh at me or something, hit the like button, subscribe. There's a supporters thing through Spreaker that you can become a supporter of the show if you would like. And I don't even remember how much it is, but it's not much because I didn't think anybody was ever going to do it. So far, I was right. So, but yeah, tell a friend, click the button, the share button and stuff. And I'll appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. And you'll hear me next time if you don't watch, because I understand if you don't watch on YouTube. I'm not much to look at. So until then, be good. Stay warm. Take care of that furnace. Make sure it keeps running. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Really? Just Stop with your host, Ross. Make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a dose of some common sense.